Lagos, the nation's commercial capital. This is the News at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Kayode Okekiolu.
Hello and welcome. Tonight, Afenifere leader Chief Ayo Adebanjo says the Pan-Yoruba group is throwing its weight behind the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, based on equity and fairness. PDP presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar appoints former Senate President Dr. Bukola Saraki, Ayim Pius Ayim, and 4 others as special advisors to boost his presidential campaign. The federal government makes U-turn on its earlier directive to vice-chancellors to reopen universities and resume lectures.
And on business news tonight, Brent crude drops $85 a barrel as dollar surges to 20-year high amid fears of global recession.
On sports news tonight, WBC heavyweight champion Tyson Fury declares that his all-British heavyweight fight with Anthony Joshua is officially over after failing to meet today's 5 p.m. deadline.
And from Abuja, the nation's capital, military veterans under the aegis of retired members of Nigerian Armed Forces stage a protest over the non-payment of security debarment allowance, among other entitlements.
And in international news from London, the far-right leader Giorgia Meloni has claimed victory in Italy's election and is on course to become the country's first female prime minister.
In 2 days, the ban on political campaigns for the 2023 elections will be lifted. And for the Yoruba socio-political group Afenifere, its members have decided to throw their weight behind the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi. A leader of the group, Chief Ayo Adebanjo, during a media briefing in Lagos State, says the group is backing Mr. Peter Obi because it believes he is the only candidate that will rekindle the spirit of true federalism in the country. In his words, on Peter Obi we stand.
The Igbo people of the Southeast have never tasted presidency in Nigeria. And now the power is due back in the South. Equity demands that it be ceded to the Igbo. We cannot continue to demand that the Igbo people remain in Nigeria while we at the same time continue to brutally marginalize and exclude them from the power dynamic. Peter Obi is the person of Igbo extraction that the Federal has decided to support and to back. He is the man we trust to restructure the country back to federalism on the assumption of office. We will not compromise this principle of justice, equity, and inclusiveness because one of our own, Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, is a front-line candidate. It is on this principle we condemn the PDP for sponsoring Atiku Abubakar, a northern Fulani Muslim, to succeed General Muhammad Buhari, another Fulani Muslim who enjoyed the labor movement, students, youth organizations, women associations, and every institution whose foundation is built on fairness and justice to join hands in this task of enthroning a democratic government by supporting Peter Obi. If we are sincere and honest about keeping Nigeria together in peace, the slogan henceforth should be to keep Nigeria one, everybody should be Obidati compliant.
And over to the People's Democratic Party, PDP, where notwithstanding the crisis in the party, which resulted in the withdrawal of support by some members, the presidential candidate of the PDP, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, is going ahead with the formation of his strategic team by announcing key appointments to strengthen his presidential campaign. The appointees are former Senate President Dr. Bukola Saraki as Special Envoy and Senator Pius Ayim as Special Advisor. Also appointed as special advisors are former Governor of Kano State, Ibrahim Shekarau, former Governor of Osun State, Olagunsoye Oyinlola, and Senator Ehige Ozamare. Former National Chairman of the People's Democratic Party, Prince Uche Secondus, also joins the team as his technical advisor. The appointments are to take immediate effect as Alhaji Atiku Abubakar admonished the appointees to use their vast political experiences to ensure that the presidential campaign records huge success. And to Osun State, where the Election Petition Tribunal resumed sitting to look into the case filed by Governor Gboyega Oyetola of the All Progressives Congress against the declaration of Ademola Adeleke of the People's Democratic Party as the governor-elect. At the sitting of the tribunal in Osogbo, the state capital today, counsel to the APC, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Kayode Olatoke, had informed the court of his readiness to continue with pre-hearing. The counsel to INEC, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Paul Ananaba, said the pre-hearing could not go on because he was just served with a pre-hearing form this morning, while the counsel to Mr. Adeleke, Bamidele Abolari, and the PDP, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Nathaniel Oke, also requested the tribunal to give them the required 7 days to respond. The chairman of the tribunal, Justice Teresa Kume, thereafter adjourned the matter till Tuesday, October the 4th, for the commencement of hearing properly.
Dealt with preliminaries. We have not gotten to the level or stage of hearing proper. There are certain aspects of procedure that we should first of all attend to before we can now go to the trial of the case proper. It is those issues that are supposed to be attended to preliminarily that we attended today in terms of filing of forms, serving the other parties, the response of the other parties to the forms, questionnaires from the tribunal as to how do you want us to handle this matter, what is your response. It is when we are through with all those things I've just enumerated, then we can now be talking in terms of call your witnesses.
Election petition being used sui generis and time sensitive. That's why we are suggesting that we can take a stand down for them to fill the form so that we come back in the afternoon. But since they are insisting on having their rights, and even though, as we had in the tribunal, I submitted that 7 days is the maximum. It's not that it's sacrosanct that they must be given 7 days. So, but in order to be fair to them, that was why the tribunal adjourned till next week for them to take their time.
And ahead of the September 28th kickoff of political campaigns for the 2023 general elections, the Nigeria Broadcasting Commission, NBC, is cautioning broadcast stations on hate speech by political parties. The Director General of the NBC, Mr. Balarabe Ilela, warned that the Commission will not hesitate to sanction any individual or organization that breaches the existing codes. Mr. Ilela was speaking in Abuja during a sensitization forum on political broadcasting, an event attended by broadcast media organizations, the chairman of INEC, and representatives of the Nigeria Police Force.
It's not the usual meeting between the National Broadcasting Commission, NBC, and broadcasters. This meeting is to put the media on notice that political campaigns will commence soon and practitioners must exercise caution in their reporting. The Director General warns broadcast organizations to resist the temptation from politicians who may want to use their platforms to propagate hate speech and falsehood.
I also use this opportunity to remind broadcasters not to allow any form of hate speech, fake news, derogatory or divisive remarks. The Commission will not hesitate to sanction any broadcast station, including shutting it down immediately when it becomes necessary.
Other participants here underscore the importance of objective and fair reportage of political events.
I would like to seize this opportunity to appeal to the media to continue to fact-check stories before going to press.
Equitable access for all political parties and candidates is essential to the promotion of issue-based campaigns.
The weeks ahead that will lead up to the 2023 general elections in Nigeria will be critical for broadcast organizations owing to the influx of political messages that will be in circulation. Hence, practitioners seek some form of protection from the regulator.
The profession should equally be protected. The regulator should be able to stand up for people that are doing the right thing. If somebody has done it according to the dictates of the law, I think the regulator too should equally say, yes, we have to stand by this person that has done it according to the dictates of the law.
The protection of the media, the safety of the media, nobody's talking about it. So we also want to appeal to the regulator. We also want to appeal to the security agencies. Let them not see us as competitors.
Campaigns for national elections in Nigeria will commence on September 28, while this will be a period for political parties and their candidates to openly sell their manifestos and garner the support of the electorates. It'll be a time for media houses to exercise caution about the content they put on air.
Well, to the education sector, it's yet another twist in the over 7-month-old ASU strike, as the federal government has made a U-turn and is now asking vice-chancellors of federal universities to stand down an earlier directive to reopen the universities and resume lectures. The latest directive from the National Universities Commission advised all pro-chancellors and chairmen of governing councils, as well as vice-chancellors of federal universities, that further development and information on the matter will be communicated to all relevant stakeholders. The NUC had, in a previous circular, directed that the university heads ensure that ASU members immediately resume lectures and restore the daily activities of the various university campuses. It is unclear whether the government withdrew the said directive, and it followed the ruling of the National Industrial Court last Wednesday, asking the lecturers to resume work pending the determination of the suit brought before it by the federal government, a ruling which ASU has appealed. ASU has been on strike since February the 14th over the federal government's failure to meet its demands on the funding of universities and lecturers' salaries and allowances. Back to the courts, where the Chief Judge of Lagos, Justice Kazim Alugba, has appealed to the Lagos State government to prioritize the reconstruction of the burnt Judiciary High Court. The Justice Alugba made the appeal at the Lagos Central Mosque while speaking at a Thanksgiving service organized by the State Judiciary to mark the commencement of the 2022-2023 new legal year. The Judiciary Court was burnt down in October 2020 following the hijack of the EndSARS protests by hoodlums. Justice Alugba lamented the destruction of the court, noting that it was a monumental edifice that must be revived. He restated the judiciary's commitment to continue to deliver justice without fear or favor. And the Deputy Governor of Lagos State, Dr. Bafemi Hamzat, who celebrated with the judiciary at the Thanksgiving service, has however explained that a trust fund had been set up to rebuild public structures destroyed during the violent protest. He promised that the reconstruction of the Judiciary High Court complex will be the first with the fund. In part two, after the break, many parts of the country plunge into darkness as the national grid collapses for the 8th time in 2022. Well, the TCN has responded, but that's in a moment. Do stay with us. You're welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10, live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Afenifere leader Chief Ayo Adebanjo says the Pan-Yoruba group is throwing its weight behind the presidential candidate of Labour Party, Peter Obi, based on equity and inclusiveness. PDP presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar appoints former Senate Presidents Bukola Saraki, Ayim Pais Ayim, and 4 others as a special advisor to boost his presidential campaign. The federal government makes a U-turn on its earlier directive to vice-chancellors to reopen universities and resume lectures. And onto the power sector, the hope of ending the perennial electricity challenges in the country seems far from over as the national grid again collapsed in some parts of the country, including Lagos today. Well, this is the 8th time the country will be recording such a collapse this year alone, which, according to the Transmission Company of Nigeria, was as a result of sudden drop in system frequency, which created system instability. A statement by TCN spokesperson Ndidi Mba says the restoration of the affected parts is almost complete as investigation is conducted to determine what caused the drop. The national grid, which last collapsed in July, has suffered more than 200 partial and total system collapses from January 2010 to June this year. Well, let's now head over to our Abuja studio for more on the news at 10, where Terry Kumi is sitting by. It's over to you, Terry. Good evening.
Hello, Kayode. Good evening. Now, some retired members of the Nigerian Armed Forces and the coalition of concerned military veterans today picketed the Ministry of Defense in Abuja. The retirees staged the 3rd phase of their protest over the non-payment of their security debarment allowance, among others by the federal government. They displayed banners which read, "Review the wide disparity in pay and pension across the ranks of serving and retired personnel." Among other demands is for President Muhammadu Buhari to direct the immediate payment of pensions to Nigerian Civil War veterans that were verified in the 2015 pension payroll.
The 2 issues that were burning then was the outstanding arrears of 24 months minimum wage increase and the security debarment allowance. Now, they met together, they put the minimum wage in tranches of peanuts. We didn't say anything. They are still paying it in tranches. Now, the security debarment allowance, unfortunately for us, we saw that they started to even pay soldiers and officers that were just leaving. Then the backlog of the veterans that they have not paid. The SDA, for clarity, is the security debarment allowance that is paid to retired personnel to debar them from using their skills against the state. So if I'm a sniper, I'm a bomb expert, whatever you are, you can't use it against the state. You know, and that kind of strategic influence, financial influence, was withheld by this government. If Nigerian government has empathy, they should know that there are sensitive offices that you don't put somebody that is stone dead to the feelings of others. The office of the Honorable Minister of Defense, if the president knows what he is doing right now, he's supposed to vacate that office and put someone there that has empathy.
A police inspector has been reportedly killed by a terrorist gang at the Makara quarters in Kwakware community along Katsina-Jibia Road. An eyewitness told Channels Television that the terrorists arrived at the community at about 7 a.m. today, shooting sporadically as they chased a bus conveying some passengers. It was gathered that an attempt by the police inspector to repel them proved abortive, as the terrorists shot him dead and burned his vehicle before they eventually abducted an unspecified number of passengers. Meanwhile, in a similar development, 3 farmers have been killed in an attack by bandits on Haingada of Damari community in Birnin-Gwari local government area of Kaduna State. The attackers were also said to have abducted 22 others from the community. On the same day, another group of bandits reportedly attacked a farm center located along Birnin-Gwari Kaduna Road, killing 1 person and later took 6 people away. They also kidnapped 4 others at Dajin Jangali and seized 3 motorcycles from farmers at Kamfanin Doka area. While still on insecurity, the Bayelsa State Police Command has paraded persons suspected to be members of a kidnap group that has been terrorizing Bayelsa State. The suspects are believed to be the masterminds of most of the kidnaps in Bayelsa State that date back to 2015 when the younger sister of the former governor of Bayelsa State, Nancy Dixon, was kidnapped. The police also confirmed that only the 19 persons were paraded, while some other persons are still at large.
The gang leader, Emmanuel Charles Angase, has confessed that on 30th June 2022 at about 0600 hours, himself, John Ewa, and others at large accosted Danjuma Omeje at the entrance of his house at Okaka, kidnapped him and fled in a blue Toyota Corolla car with registration number KJA 225AY. They took the victim to his camp at Osun, Oluwasiri, and released him on 14 July 2022 after collecting 60 million ransom. The suspects also confessed to the kidnap of Aki Oladele Olushola Ibanka and Nancy Keme Dixon, who was kidnapped on 26 December 2015. He also confessed to the kidnap of Chinonseze and other Igbo businessmen.
It was 30 million. They gave me 1.5 million. That is just like that. And my mom was actually healed in the hospital. My mom was healed in the hospital, so I'm not part of it. I was just misled that I should just show them where this person is. I was not involved in it.
The Nigeria Data Protection Agency is currently working on the data protection bill that will safeguard the data of Nigerians and put an end to the theft of the identity of citizens, I beg your pardon. That according to the National Commission of the agency, Dr. Vincent Olatunji, he was speaking at a sensitization meeting organized for members of the National Assembly in Abuja.
We have a population made up of over 200 million people. And we exchange data on a daily basis. So there is every need for us to put in place measures to adequately protect this data, safeguard them, and ensure that they are processed and managed within available laws in the country. Now, between when we were created and now, all we've been doing has been the area of awareness creation, which is really key, because a lot of data subjects who are Nigerians, they don't know their rights. You have the right that if anybody is collecting your data, you can even refuse because they need your consent. You have the right to even move your data from one data processor to the other. You have the right to collect your data. You have the right to be forgotten to say, I don't even want my data with you. All these and many more. A lot of data subjects don't know. On the part of data processors and data controllers, what are their obligations to us as data subjects? Now, they need to put in place adequate technical measures in terms of the kind of hardware they deploy, kind of the firewall they deploy, kind of the software they deploy, to ensure that even physical security, to ensure that your data with them is protected. How about their human capital? Their staff who handle data on a daily basis. What knowledge of data protection do they have? They need to engage in continuous capacity building.
Well, that's all from the nation's capital. Back to you, Coyote.
Well, thanks a lot, Terry. Let's head over to Anambra State, where 2 workers lost their lives over the weekend when a 3-story building under construction collapsed in Orifite, Ekusigo local government area of the state. According to one of the workers, he had to jump from the building to escape being buried alive. The Anambra State government has warned that it will no longer be business as usual for any project in the state that is not approved.
Tragedy struck over the weekend in the quiet neighborhood of Ibola village in Orefite, Ekusigo local government area of Anambra State, when 2 of twin 3-story buildings under construction collapsed, killing 2 carpenters working at the site. 2 other workers survived the incident. One of the survivors narrates that he had to jump from the 3rd floor to escape death.
The house got divided into 2, and the house divided into 2.
So one go like this, one go the other side. Me, I from other up, I fly, jump for that 3-story building. Yeah, I from come down, jump.
It's not clear what led to the collapse, but members of the Council for the Regulation of Engineering in Nigeria, COREN, believe that the building was not properly designed and the reinforcements were not strong, while the monolithic structure was not well established.
We were doing proper investigations. We've been here with School Planning Board and we want to cut on this place. We must seal this arena until we get to the root of it. There must be proper investigations. We want to see the plan design of this building. We don't want to go into technicalities because we have seen all. The buildings is not in compliance at all with the building policy, it's not in compliance with the Building Act, it's not in compliance with all that is embedded in engineering design. So our intention is that whoever that is involved, both the client, both the supervisor engineers, and both the chief engineer must be brought to book.
Meanwhile, the State Commissioner for Environment insists it's no longer business as usual for those he describes as roadside contractors, as proper approvals must be given before any construction is carried out in the state.
Gone are those days where you can easily just set up and get an architect to do your building construction just like that without an engineer being on the site, or just get a roadside contractor to just build your building just like that without a professional engineer being on site. We are changing a lot of things in Anambra State. The government of Soludo is, redirecting the state to its proper place, and current will do its bit to make sure that Anambra State succeeds.
The current team also visited the Kwata flyover in Oka, where an expansion challenge on the flyover is causing mild traffic jams, while there are calls for the state government to save the bridge or risk having it collapse.
Still ahead on the news at 10, Brent crude drops below $85 a barrel as a dollar surges to a 20-year high amid fears of global recession. Well, that's some business news. Join us again. And now to some company news. Busy schedules should not stand in the way of people's breakfasts, a meal which has been described as vital in setting the tone for the day. Well, that advice is from Kellogg's Toleram, makers of Choco cereal, cornflakes, and other cereal brands. And they made this statement during their commemoration of the World Breakfast Day in Lagos.
Every year since 2018, Kellogg's Toleram celebrates World Breakfast Day. And as part of the celebration this year, the company is ready to set a record of feeding 2,500 persons at the same place and same time. From across Lagos State, Nigeria's commercial North Center, these people gather here to be a part of the history.
You know, as a mom, as a wife, we stand for healthy, and that's why we are here, influencing to say health comes first, not quantity, quality, and that's what Kellogg's stands out as. So you see the lyrics when it goes Kellogg's time is breakfast time. It's inculcating everything, you know, healthy breakfast, bringing families together over the years, and still breaking boundaries.
We at Kellogg's are doing the Kellogg's World Breakfast Day. It's one that has not happened this big, and every year it's going to get bigger and better. It's an experience alone, dining with family, with friends, with people you've never met, sitting here together at the same time doing this together. I mean, it's one that has never happened. Nobody has broken this record, and we're pretty excited, but we at Kellogg's Nigeria is able to pull this off.
For the brand, the advantage of this convergence is not just to underscore the nutritional value of the product, but also the bond it creates.
This is an opportunity for us to remind the average Nigerian that, look, breakfast is the most important meal of the day. How you start your day will determine how you end it. So starting it on a high nutritional note will go a long way in setting the pace for your achievement for the day. So I think this is just to remind people and encourage people to come together at the table. In fact, I heard one of the commenting now, the wife telling the husband to say, I can't remember the last time we sat at the table together to eat breakfast. These are for them the opportunity of bringing that family reunion and coming together as a family is a good opportunity for bonding. It's equally a good opportunity to ensure that you fortify the entire family with good nutrition effortlessly.
It's very convenient to prepare for both kids and adults. It's nutritious, it's yummy, it's affordable. Even when you're rushing, it's easy to prepare and take. And like our nutritionists have said today, we shouldn't skip breakfast. So this is your go-to when you don't want to skip breakfast in the morning.
Among Kellogg's products are Moons and Stars Choco Cereal, Frosties, Gold Grains, Cornflakes, Cocoa Pops and more, which it boasts of high nutrients, making it the world's best cereal.
The acting counselor of the United States Department for Agriculture, Mr. Gerald Smith, has been speaking of how the adoption of the improved variety of cotton seeds will assist Nigerian cotton farmers in boosting their production and income level. Speaking at a meeting with cotton farmers in Abuja, Mr. Smith also canvassed for the support of the government in improving the viability of the sector towards the provision of foreign exchange earnings and job creation.
Cotton farmers have gathered here as part of efforts by the National Biotechnology Agency to harness the potentials of the cotton industry, a subsector that is believed to have the capacity to revive the nation's textile industry. However, biotechnologists believe the introduction of BT cotton seed is key.
The government to ensure that the agricultural sector become revamped to ensure there's full security. Not just food security, for the farmers to have enough money in their pocket, for the farmers to look like most of the big men you see in America who are great farmers. We want Nigerian farmers to be great men and women. You can be like an American farmer. You do not need to be afraid of what government decisions that have been taken on your behalf.
Adopting the improved variety of cotton comes with lots of advantages, some of which include an increase in yield per hectare to about 4 tons and its resistance to bollworms and insects, thus giving the Nigerian farmer an edge over countries yet to adopt the technology. This is an effort the United States is willing to support.
Population growth, climate variabilities, and limited farmlands across the world means that farmers in Nigeria need yield advantages. Despite large cotton planting areas, Nigeria lagged other cotton cultivating countries in terms of production. I truly believe the use of BT cotton can help foster increased yield across Nigeria.
Nevertheless, doing that comes with some challenges.
Getting the seeds at a very high cost does not really stop the farmer from, just for him to get access to loans is fine. If they can get loans, if the government can do that, I think they will help the farmer a great deal. If you are using the local seeds, the inputs you are going to use for you to even get little yields is so much.
The government is hoping that these efforts, if adopted, will make the cotton industry the nation's next gold mine.
Oteni Olaoyetayo is here with the latest business stories, especially with a look at the current crude prices and more.
Banking so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
That's right, Kayode. Well, international oil price benchmark Brent crude fell below $85 a barrel today, following a surge in the dollar and continued fears of imminent slowdown for the global economy. Brent futures for November settlements dropped 2.1% to trade at $84.32 per barrel, around 10:20 p.m. local time. While its main contemporary, the U.S. West Texas Intermediate futures, fell 2.3% to trade at $76.97 per barrel, a price last seen in January this year. Well, earlier today, the dollar climbed to a high not seen since 2002. The surge in the world's #1 currency comes as central banks around the world, including the US and the UK, continue to hike interest rates in an effort to tackle inflation. Well, latest data from the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited shows that 94.77% of its revenue was spent on petrol subsidy payment in August. The information from the National Oil Company's monthly presentation to the Federation Account Allocation Committee meeting at the weekend showed that NNPCL generated 553.99 billion in revenue from oil and gas operations in August 2022. However, the subsidy payment, or what the firm terms under recovery, which was deducted for the month, was 525.71 billion. Well, this comes as the Police Special Task Force on Petroleum and Illegal Bunkering seized 123 oil tankers deployed for the purpose of crude oil theft. And outside Nigeria, global rating agency Fitch has downgraded Ghana's long-term local and foreign currency issuer default ratings to CC from CCC. In a statement released today, Fitch says the downgrade reflects the increased likelihood that the West African country will pursue a debt restructuring, given mounting financial stress with surge in interest costs on domestic debt and a prolonged lack of access to Eurobond markets. However, the Ghanaian government has not confirmed or denied press reports that the country is preparing to negotiate a restructuring. The most recent IMF debt sustainability analysis conducted in 2021 found Ghana at a high risk of debt distress and vulnerable to shock to market access and high debt servicing costs. Well, back home, let's check in on the stock market now. John Mekwa has the details.
Thank you so much. Welcome to the Stock Market Reports. A great way to start the week, but this may just be investors cherry-picking after the drop in some share prices last week, and that cherry-picking added 102 billion naira to the market cap at the close of trade today, and so we see the market cap at 26.547 trillion naira, and the all share index, well, in the green after a couple of days, 0.39% at 49,218.35. Now, a massive drop in value today, went from over 3 billion on Friday to just about 855 million today. Where did all the money go? Well, that's where the market is looking at. A volume also in the red. The only green that we have today on the activity chart is the deals, 3,580, a bit better than what we had on Friday. Now, the most active securities were Court Vale, there you have it, 24 million, FCMB 20 million, and Transco at 6 million. I mean, even the top trades doesn't have very impressive numbers, but FCMB at least gained. It gained 26 kobo to close at 3 naira 50 kobo, while Transco shed 1 kobo to close at 1 naira 4 kobo. The bear is still lurking somewhere very close. 11 stocks posted gains while 17 stocks declined. That left a negative market breadth on the first trading day of the week. I wonder what the 4 days will hold. We'll find out and report to you. That's a stock market report. I'm John Mekwa.
Thanks a lot, Ini. And for the global markets, the Dow Jones Industrial Average has slipped into a bear market today as interest rates surged and turmoil rocked global currencies. Here are some of the closing figures for Monday. And that's business news tonight. I'm Teniola Oyetayo. It's back to Kayode for the rest of the news at 10.
Banking so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Well, thank you, Teniola. Still to come on the news at 10, far-right leader Giorgia Meloni is on course to become Italy's first female prime minister after claiming victory in the country's election. Stay with us. Meloni is on course to become Italy's first female prime minister and leads the country's most right-wing government since the Second World War after triumphing in the general election. Well, Simon Pusey has more on this and other international news in Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Far-right leader Giorgia Meloni has claimed victory in Italy's election and is on course to become the country's first female prime minister. Ms. Meloni is widely expected to form Italy's most right-wing government since World War II, something that will alarm much of Europe as Italy is the EU's third biggest economy. However, speaking after the vote, Ms. Meloni said her Brothers of Italy party would govern for everyone and would not betray people's trust.
When this night is over, we have to remember we are not at the end point. We are at the starting point. It is from tomorrow that we must prove our worth. It's important to understand that if we will be called to lead this country, we will do that for all. We will do that for all Italians. We will do that with the aim to unify our people, to underline what unifies it rather than what divides it.
However, opposition leaders bemoaned the election results. Today is a sad day for Italy, for Europe. Tough days lie ahead of us. We fought as much as we could to avoid this outcome. We fought for our values and with the aim to taking Italy into the future. At least 13 people have died, including 7 children, while a further 21 have been injured in a school shooting in Russia. Russian media have posted videos which appear to show panic inside the building where the shooting took place. Some footage shows blood on a classroom floor with desks overturned. The gunman, who was a former pupil at the school, killed himself at the scene. Staff and pupils have been evacuated from school buildings. Meanwhile, another gunman has been detained after opening fire at a draft office in the Siberian town of Ust-Limsk. A video published on social media shows the gunman opening fire at least one person inside the draft office as others are seen running away. Uniformed officers are then seen standing over a detained person on the ground outside the building. A number of draft offices have been attacked since Russian President Vladimir Putin declared a partial mobilization last Wednesday. Demonstrations have continued around the world after an Iranian woman was killed in police custody. Nationwide protests erupted in Iran following the death in police custody of a 22-year-old Kurdish woman detained for allegedly failing to adhere to headscarf rules. While authorities say Mahsa Armani died from underlying health reasons, her family and countless other Iranians believe she died as a result of having been beaten. At least 30 people have been killed in the protests so far. And they have spread around the world in recent days, here outside the White House in Washington. Members of Canada's Iranian community here holding a demonstration against Iran's government over the weekend, while protesters also gathered in their hundreds outside the Iranian embassy in London. The pound has fallen to a record low against the dollar as markets react to the UK's biggest tax cuts in 50 years. Sterling fell close to $1.03 early before regaining some ground to stand at $1.08. Chancellor Kwasi Kwarteng promised more tax cuts on top of a £45 billion package he announced on Friday. Amid expectations, borrowing will surge.
Right now it does seem to be pretty reckless, and what the government has effectively done is given us some money back in terms of tax cuts. But of course it's very likely that that means that the Bank of England is going to come in with more aggressive interest rate hikes. So what the Chancellor gives us in terms of tax cuts, we're going to have it taken out in the form of higher mortgage payments, etc., meaning that ultimately the boost to demand could be removed, and all we're left with is this legacy of much larger debt.
And finally, Michael Jordan's jersey from the opening game of the 1998 NBA Finals has sold for over $10 million at auction, making it the most expensive piece of game-worn sports memorabilia in history. The previous record was Argentina's Diego Maradona's Hand of God jersey, fetching a staggering $9.3 million. It was also significantly higher than the record for any item of Jordan's sports memorabilia sold so far. The jersey was expected to fetch between $3 and $5 million, but in fact went for $10.1 million. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Many thanks, Simon, and welcome to Sports News. Tyson Fury has declared he will not be fighting Anthony Joshua because no contract has been signed after today's 5 p.m. deadline. Joshua said on Sunday he will sign the contract to fight Fury after the WBO champion issued an ultimatum if they are to put together their all-British heavyweight battle this year. However, revealed the contract were no longer in his hands, but with his legal team. Fury earlier this evening says the fight is officially off as the D-Day has come and gone and no contract has been signed. But the WBC champion may still fight before the end of the year, but the undisputed showdown with the WBO, WBA and IBF titleist Alexander Usyk will have to wait, and that's until next year. Three-time African champions, the Super Eagles of Nigeria, have settled in Iran ahead of tomorrow's international friendly against the Desert Foxes of Algeria. While the clash will be only the second ever friendly match between both sides, with the two-time African champions edging the clash in Austria in October 2020 by the odd goal. And that's Sports News. I'm Ayotunde Balogun.
Well, thank you, Ayotunde. And the main news again. Afenifere leader Chief Ayo Adebanjo today reaffirmed the group's decision to back the presidential candidate of Labour Party, Peter Obi, to ensure what he describes as equity and inclusiveness. Also today, the PDP presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar announced the appointment of former Senate President Bukola Saraki and Ayim Pius Ayim, as well as 4 others, special advisors for his campaign. And that's the news at 10 tonight, everyone. Thank you for watching. I am Kaido Kikilu. Good night.